across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good evening on this dark day for Britain, and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be your host for 3 hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 10 o'clock. Get involved, get on the phone and call me on 03444991000 or WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Thursday, October the 2nd. Here's what's coming up. If you reward terrorism, you promote more terrorism. This incontrovertible truth should be at the front of Keir Starmer's mind after the shocking terror attack on a Manchester synagogue this morning that left 2 dead and 3 stab victims in critical condition. It is no exaggeration tonight to say that Britain's beleaguered Jewish community is incandescent with rage over the Prime Minister's decision to reward the horror of Hamas's October the 7th massacre by recognising the state of Palestine. British Jews believe that this murderous assault on the Heaton Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the Jewish year, was the result, the direct result, of Starmer's shameful recognition of Palestine and his pro-Palestine government's shameless anti-Israel policies, as incredibly, revoltingly, another pro-Palestine demonstration roars its hate right now in the middle of London. Right now this is happening. It is hard not to agree that Labour's hostility towards Israel has emboldened the UK's disgusting explosion of anti-Semitism that has without a doubt led to today's atrocity in Manchester. Let me know what you think. 03444991000. Aren't you sick of two-tier Keir's weasel words about the welfare of Britain's 287,000 Jews, whose lives he has clearly done so much to endanger? 03444991000. Obviously, I'll devote much of tonight's show to the appalling violence at the synagogue, as the finger of blame clearly points towards Islamist terrorism. But in other news, Starmer is already counting the cost of his ill-advised dirty tricks tactics, effectively branding Nigel Farage and millions of Reform supporters as racists. The gutter-trawling strategy of lies to smear his increasingly popular opponents has clearly backfired, with a new poll revealing that since Keir's crew launched their sordid slur campaign, Labour has plummeted by 5 points. Serves the desperate dorks right, don't you think? 03444991000. We see you, Starmer. We see you, Lammy. We know what you're doing. Also tonight, I will ask what the hell was going on in the crazed COVID panic when that clown of a health secretary, Matt Hancock, handed dodgy Baroness Bra Michelle Mone £122 million of taxpayers' money for a load of useless, unsterile PPE medical gowns. It was a company that she was connected to. She denied that, except it was run by her husband, so that wasn't much of a denial. She later admitted that she had lied, but she said it's not a crime to lie. Great, great. And she's in the House of Lords, helping to make our laws. Surely this shady lingerie tycoon and self-confessed liar must be kicked out of the House of Lords pronto. 03444991000. Plus, Crazy Ed Miliband's latest madness, bringing in a law to ban fracking in Britain forever and ever. Amen. And finally, royal guru Kinsey Schofield on the Markle family's fury after Meghan failed to even check whether her frail 81-year-old stroke victim father Thomas Markle Sr. had survived the massive earthquake that rocked his 19th floor apartment in the Philippines. She didn't seem to care if her dad was alive or dead. How heartless is that? 03444991000. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Thursday night together. I'm going to be joined by Philip Kilsey, Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum, in just a minute. But before we go to Philip, let's go straight up to Manchester, where Talk's reporter Alex Farrell is on the scene outside the synagogue. Welcome to the show, Alex. What's the latest?
Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, I'm here on Middleton Road in North Manchester, where just over 9 hours ago, behind me, there was an attack that's now been called a terrorist attack. 2 people lost their lives, and as you can see, it's getting dark here, which means Yom Kippur has come to an end. It's meant to be a celebration, the holiest time in the Jewish calendar, and lots of local Jews were making their way into the synagogue this morning, and as you can imagine, the terror they must have felt as this man came along in his car, he rammed into some people, and then he got out with a frenzied attack with a knife. And if it wasn't for the bravery, Kevin, of the security staff and some of the worshippers here at the synagogue this morning, it could have been a lot worse. 2 people unfortunately died, 3 people in a critical condition in hospital, and as we now know, the attacker himself was killed by police 7 minutes after the 999 call was made. And it's been confirmed in the last couple of hours that what was assumed was some kind of vest, possibly a suicide vest, was actually not viable at all. So what the attacker's motives are, we're not too sure. What the intention was, we know, was to kill lots of innocent people. And Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, has said in the last hour that he will do everything in his power to protect the security of Jews across the UK. Now, what does that mean? We're not too sure. Yom Kippur will be a celebration across the UK, not just here in Manchester, and lots of Jews, thousands of people, will today be unsure about their safety.
Yeah, to put it into context, Alex, Yom Kippur is a sort of Jewish Christmas day. It is the day, just like kind of lapsed Christians go to church on Christmas Day, maybe not for the rest of the year. Yom Kippur is the day when, shall we say, irreligious Jews do go to the synagogue. So it's a very special day for them. It is the most holy day of the Jewish calendar. So a terrible day for this to happen. As you say, it seems that the security guard guarding, sadly we have to have security guards outside synagogues these days. He was the one who got stabbed to death, it turned out. 3 more seriously injured, critically injured, we understand. And as you say, the suspect was shot dead by police. Big scare for a while because he had what appeared to be a bomb around his waistline, but it turned out that that was just a sort of hoax. But very, very tense times, terror in the air. And talking of in the air, we heard that, perhaps you can help us with this, Alex, that helicopters were circling the area all day, and some of them were down to the SAS. Is that what you're understanding up there?
Yes, that's true. In the last half an hour, the helicopter noise has finally stopped, and the vehicles are slowly departing from the area. But it's the first time since 2017, to our knowledge, since the London Bridge terror attack, that we've had deployed SAS here to a terrorist incident in the UK. And it's very worrying, of course, because, as you said earlier, speaking to Peter, there are demonstrations currently taking place in London, and people are unsure about their communities. Where we are here in Manchester, it's a very diverse community, Kevin. We've got people from the Jewish faith, we've got people who are Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, and of course those with no faith at all. They're all surrounding me here. They all live very close to this synagogue, and they're coming together as one community, but they are very worried. This doesn't happen on a normal Thursday here in Manchester, as you can imagine. So yeah, a lot of fear here in Manchester today.
Alex, thanks for that update, and we'll come back to you in an hour or so, if that's okay, to check what's going on then. So we will keep you updated with events as they unfold up in Manchester. A very tense day, a very worrying day up there. And in a little while, I'm going to bring you some footage of what's going on in the middle of London, or was right now. In fact, I can bring you that now. Now, our friend Richard Tice, the Deputy Leader of Reform UK, from his office in Parliament, filmed this. Now, given what this was, you know, just hours after this appalling violence, this appalling attack on a synagogue, just people going to worship on a very special holy day, this lunatic driving a car into the crowd, the worshippers, as they gathered outside the synagogue, then rushing in with a knife, stabbing three people, you know, and causing great terror. One of the rabbis is being hailed a hero. He's the one that managed to sort of lock the doors and make sure that this maniac couldn't get in. We don't know, that we were told, the police tell us they know who it was. There's talk of 2 arrests in a street around about 500 yards from where the horror unfolded in the synagogue. 2 arrests there, and the police say they do know who the suspect was. And of course, a lot of speculation that it was an Islamist terrorist. We cannot confirm that later yet. But after 7:30, as I said earlier, the Campaign for Anti-Semitism, a fine organisation full of fine people, have held their council all day. They've been very careful about this, but after 7:30, I'll bring you their reaction to this, and I think I can probably break the embargo to a slight extent and say they are without a doubt pointing the finger at Islamist terrorism. So we'll bring you that in just a little while. In the meantime, just before we go to Philip, this was what Richard Tice filmed just around about an hour or so ago, and I just think this is a pro-Palestine, and it's sort of explosive pro-Palestine demonstration today after what happened. Look at this.
Well, here we are. It's Yom Kippur. There's been a terrorist outrage in Manchester where Jews have been killed. We've got a ceasefire deal that everybody's agreed for Gaza and to release the hostages. Everybody, of course, except Hamas. And here's this lot, after a terrorist incident, with dead Jews in the morgue, and this lot are celebrating, hooting and tooting. Frankly, utterly disgusting.
I agree with Richard. Do you? 03444991000. Slight sort of factual correction there. 3 Jewish people, you might say, fighting for their lives. We know that they're critically injured, but none of them dead. The only dead person is the suspect, the person who is thought to have driven the car and been shot by the police. So it's now, I'm now hearing there are now 2 dead. So perhaps there is at least 1 Jewish person who's died and several more fighting for their lives. But the police shot dead the suspect, who, as I say, was thought to be wearing a kind of bomb belt. But it turned out that was a hoax. A video went round today, which basically caught all of this shockingly on action, and you could see the poor security guard lying there in a pool of blood, and you saw the guy getting shot. Very graphic video that has been forwarded many times. You're just hearing now 2 Jewish people dead after this stabbing attack. So 2 Jewish people, and I'll try and get the exact numbers, but some more fighting for their lives, critical condition, and the perpetrator, the alleged perpetrator, I have to say that for legal reasons, the suspect, who the police say they know who he was, shot dead. So 3 dead. Well, let's now go over to a man who actually knows the area, senior fellow at the New Culture Forum, Philip Kilsley. Well, you will join us on a very sad day, Philip.
Hi, Kev. Yeah, I know the area very well. I used to live in Crumpsall. My mother lives in Prestwich, which is just across the way from the park. I know the synagogue. So some of my best friends, two of my best friends, got married there. Another one of my close friends was the best man at his best mate's wedding. This is just utterly appalling. And this is on the back, as just Richard has just said, and you've just said, the government recognising the Jew hate fantasy state that is Palestine. But it's not just that. I've been thinking about what's been happening over this last few weeks, and I'm just appalled. You know, Keir Starmer's come out today and said he's shocked by it.
Yeah,
Jeremy Corbyn is shocked by it. Sultana is shocked by it. Really? They're the only people who are shocked by it. I'm not shocked by it at all. We all knew it was going to happen. We've had Gary Lineker sharing images of Jewish people being compared to rats. We had Dawn French, didn't we? You know, with a no meltdown, which was clearly anti-Israeli. We've had the BBC thinking it's okay to broadcast that lunatic at Glastonbury, chanting death, death to the IDF. We've got weekly hate marches, Kev. We've got the Your Party gaining traction very, very worryingly. We've got anti-Zionists marching through our education institutions and the civil service. We've got politicians turning a blind eye to Islamist nutters. 1 in 5 people being anti-Semitic. You know, this is terrible, terrible stuff. This is our country, the country that I used to be so proud of is grossly anti-Semitic. It's down to politicians, it's down to Islamists, it's down to the hard left, it's down to people turning a blind eye, and I'm just sick of it.
I'm sick of Starmer as well. He should hang his head in shame. Julia Hartley-Brewer said that this morning, and I echo what she said. Hang your head in shame, Starmer, because, as I said at the beginning of this show, if you reward terrorism, it promotes more terrorism. And what's happened here is, because of recognising Palestine, and indeed the government's ongoing clear pro-Palestine stance, its clear anti-Israel approach to the Middle Eastern crisis, because of that, the explosion, the revolting explosion of anti-Semitism that has bizarrely been going on since October the 7th, 2 years ago, when the first atrocity happened. That explosion of anti-Semitism has been emboldened by this government's policies. Make no mistake about it. And when critics say that Keir Starmer, in recognising Palestine, has blood on his hands today, it's hard to criticise him. I'll tell you what we'll do now, Philip. We'll go to break, and when we come back, we'll play Keir Starmer's weasel words. Andy Burnham, the Manchester mayor, proving that unlike Keir Starmer, he does at least speak human. We'll play both of those and continue to discuss this, and I'm going to play you something else. Given what you just said about the BBC, it's extraordinary. The BBC's first report, we'll play it, said that it was thought that this could be the work of the far right.
What can you say to this, Kev? Really, what can you say to this? You know, the BBC are essentially a Hamas propaganda channel. You know, and this is our national broadcaster. As I say before, I know we've got to go to break, but this is catastrophe. We are subject to this ridiculous anti-Semitic propaganda all the time, and Jewish people are terrified. They're terrified and angry. And as we see, you know, people are marching through the streets every week in London, Manchester.
Now they're doing it now. Pro-Palestine. Have they got no shame, these people? It is unbelievable. Look, Philip, we must go to break now. When we come back, I'll play you that BBC stuff. We'll listen to Starmer's weasel words. We'll listen to Andy Burnham actually responding with far greater aplomb than the Prime Minister, unsurprisingly. So lots still to come, folks. Stay tuned.
I can confirm that 2 other individuals have been arrested in connection with this incident. We can confirm that 2 members of our Jewish community have sadly died as a result of this attack. Following a rapid response, armed officers from Greater Manchester Police intercepted the offender, and he was fatally shot by officers within 7 minutes of the original call.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back on this sad day where one Jewish worshipper is dead. 4 more are in hospital, attacked with a knife. 3 are in critical condition, and the security guard guarding the synagogue was also stabbed to death, was also killed. So that's 1 Jewish worshipper dead, 1 security guard dead, 4 more worshippers in hospital, 3 of them in critical condition, fighting for their lives. Let's hope the death toll doesn't get higher than this, but this, folks, is very, very serious. Now, I'm still with Philip Kisley, the Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum. Before we go to the Prime Minister's weasel words and Andy Burnham's response, I want to play you this. This was earlier today, soon after the attack. This is our friends at the BBC. Now, you know, one should never jump to conclusions. One should never leap to declare something is true when you don't know it. But this was the BBC soon after the horror unfolded at the synagogue.
People on the hard right, the far right, are a bit divided on their attitude to the Jewish community these days in the UK. But certainly the Jewish community has felt that they were at risk from multiple directions, some from the sort of extremist Islamist direction, but also some from the kind of neo-Nazi elements on the far right. So it is both that are of concern, and as you say, at this stage we don't really.
It's welcome to that's the news from Planet BBC. Their first response is to start talking about, you know, was it the far right? Was it Nazi sympathisers? So on and so forth. A little mention just towards the end of that little segment. Oh, yeah, maybe it was Islamist terrorists. The BBC, I mean, they're part and parcel of the problem. They have stoked the fires of anti-Semitism without a shadow of a doubt.
Yes, I mean, this was what I was just saying before. They're absolutely part and parcel of the problem. They're central to it. As you say, this stuff is happening now. The BBC and our you know, the public service broadcasters will just not take any responsibility for what they've done. They will not report this responsibly and reasonably. It feels as though there's this thing happening all the time now, isn't it? When something like this happens, there's this thing called controlled spontaneity, where, you know, there are hashtags where immediately people blame this mythical far right. You know, they'll throw the word Islamist in there, but it's just as an afterthought. They won't mention the hard left. You know, we don't look back in anger. We have this rubbish poetry and all the rest of it. And Manchester's so resilient, and we just carry on. No, we don't carry on. We become incredibly angry because these marches, there's one happening in London at the moment, Kev.
Yeah,
there's one happening in Manchester. There's one happening in Manchester as well, okay? And they're shouting, globalise the Intifada. Now, you know, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, you know what that means, right? We know now what the result of that stuff is. What are you going to do about this, Prime Minister? What are you going to say? What's your strategy? What's your response? How are you going to stop Jews being slaughtered in the street like so much meat? How are you going to stop families being terrified? How are you going to stop synagogues being the target for terrorists? And it's not even synagogues. When I lived in Leeds, there was a Jewish bakery that had to have security guards there. It's everywhere. When are you going to stop using the word anti-Zionist, because what that means is anti-Semitic? When are you going to get your party, the government, to stop using these words genocide in Gaza? Because there is no genocide in Gaza. The only organisation responsible for deaths in Gaza is Hamas. And when people say that, that is incitement to violence towards Jews. All of this stuff is incitement. These lies are incitement to violence towards Jews, and Starmer is doing nothing about it. It's shocking.
It really is. He, of course, cut short his jaunt to Copenhagen, where he was outlining his latest feeble measures to not really tackle the migrant crisis, more tinkering around the edges. So he flew back, hosted an emergency Cobra meeting, and this is his response, his statement not so long ago.
And while this is not a new hate, this is something Jews have always lived with, we must be clear. It is a hatred that is rising once again, and Britain must defeat it once again. On behalf of the nation, I want to offer my condolences to the families and victims affected. I want to thank the Greater Manchester Police, the first responders, and those dedicated security specialists. There is no doubt whatsoever that they have prevented an even greater tragedy, and we thank them for their bravery. But to every Jewish person in this country, I also want to say this. I know how much fear you will be holding inside of you. I really do. And so, on behalf of our country, I express my solidarity, but also my sadness that you still have to live with these fears.
I want to be sick. I really do. How dare he? Don't recognise Palestine. That might help Starmer. How about that? Here is the far more human response from the Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham.
We understand this is a situation that probably is linked to the fact that it's Yom Kippur, a day of celebration for the Jewish community. Can only imagine how people are feeling when they hear this news, the fear that will bring. But let's counter that with some reassurance for people because of the speed with which this has been dealt with, and the fact that GMP were on site within minutes. Also, it seems, Mike, as though the security staff at the synagogue have really done an amazing thing and it seems intervened to keep a great deal of people safe. Let's not use this as a moment for speculation, as you said, Mike, for rumour and for division in communities. Every single person in Greater Manchester this morning should be standing with our Jewish community as they go through this experience, this trauma that they will be experiencing today.
Andy Burnham there, the Manchester Mayor. Now, as I said to you, the excellent campaign against anti-Semitism, which has been fighting a very brave and frankly difficult fight now since October the 7th, it's still extraordinary that the worst massacre of Jewish people since the Holocaust, 1,200 people, women, children, babies, slaughtered by those thugs from Hamas, women raped, babies put into ovens and cooked. It's still extraordinary that after that, what happened in Britain? There was a rise, an explosion of anti-Semitism. I still cannot get my head around that. Now, as I said, the campaign against anti-Semitism has held its council all day, and they've embargoed this until now, till 7:30. It is a statement from the chief executive of the campaign against anti-Semitism, Gideon Falter, a friend of this show, who's appeared regularly. And I'm going to read it all, so bear with me, Philip. Today's attack was made inevitable by the radicalisation and Islamist extremism that have been allowed to spread by successive governments which have ignored every warning and done practically nothing to tackle it. Now, the blood of British Jews cries out from the ground. Those who were murdered today were simply going to the synagogue to pray on the holiest day of the Jewish calendar. It has been a long time since British Jews had faith in our politicians, police and institutions. Their appeasement of extremists, especially those of the far left and radical Islamists, is what has made today's attack inevitable. The eyes of the Jewish people worldwide and decent Britons across the country now turn to Downing Street, not for thoughts and prayers or empty declarations that anti-Semitism has no place in Britain, but to hear what concrete, forceful measures will now be enacted. Today, the blood of British Jews is on the hands of virtue-signalling politicians who have poured fuel on the fire of extremism with their posturing and appeasement. Police forces and police chiefs who have failed to tackle the mobs on our streets, universities and schools that have tolerated incitement, the BBC whose bias and moral collapse has essentially turned them into spokespeople for Hamas, whom they still refuse to call terrorists, and regulators like the Charity Commission that has failed abjectly to address dangerous rhetoric at mosques. We need firm and urgent action on each of these fronts. Otherwise, it is inevitable that yet more innocents will be murdered on our streets. That's Gideon Falter, the chief executive of the campaign against anti-Semitism. And I live near Golders Green, one of the big centres of Britain's Jewish community. Coming into work, helicopters everywhere. I got to the station, you could hardly get in. There were so many coppers there. So, a tense atmosphere around Jewish communities everywhere in the country. And Jews have been saying that what happened today was an inevitability. The only thing they find surprising is it's taken quite so long. And they also say with the policies of this government, the appeasement of Hamas, the recognition of Palestine, the blatant anti-Israel approach to the Middle East, that these policies will lead to more atrocities like this on the streets of Britain. He's right, Mr. Falter, isn't he, Philip?
He is. It's a brilliant statement, and I, while you were just reading that out, Kev, and I agreed with every single word of it. I was thinking about what Starmer had said and what he'd said. Solidarity, condolences. As I said before, we don't want your solidarity. We don't want your condolences. We want you to do something about it. We want you to take your party and turn it round. How did we get to a situation where we have 1 in 5 people in this country are openly anti-Semitic? That is just a terrible indictment on our country, but also on this administration, the Starmer regime. So it's brilliant that the Campaign for Anti-Semitism are speaking out about this so strongly, and we all have to do this. It's down to everybody to really push back against this. We have to do this. We have to fight against this violence, which is underpins the rhetoric of the government. We'll probably talk about this later on, but it's just, throwing words like racism around and just painting targets on the back of Jews, calling them calling them Zionists, and this weaponization of this word Zionism is something that we really need to get to.
I'm a Zionist, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely. I'm a total Zionist.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, and I'm proud to be a Zionist.
Me
so
too.
the weaponization of this anti-Zionism is something that we really must push back on. This hard left Islamist, it's not, when they say anti-Zionist, they don't mean anti-Zionist. They mean anti-Semitic. They're anti-Semites. They're Jew haters, and we have to really push back against this.
I'll tell you something else, Philip. Sorry to interrupt. I'll tell you something else that we have to be careful about. I do respect some people who say this, but not everyone. It's almost like a kind of hackneyed cliche that the left like to troll out. It is this. Just because I criticise Israel, it doesn't mean that I'm anti-Semitic. It doesn't mean that I'm against Jews. Now, that little safety net that left-wingers, the Corbyns of this world, create for themselves, I think is a falsity. Yes. I know I live pretty near. Well, I live in a pretty strong Jewish community. I know a lot of Jewish people, and whenever they hear the phrase, "I'm not anti-Semitic, but I reserve the right to criticise Israel," they roll their eyes and they go, "Yeah, you are anti-Semitic." It's that little phrase that I think we have to look at as well. It's the sort of thing that Starmer would say. And to go back to this horrendous recognition of Palestine, he didn't need to do it. There was no need to do it. Why did he do it? He said because it's the moral thing to do. What? It's moral to reward what Hamas did on October the 7th, 2 years ago? I don't think so. Why did he do it? Partly because it's to play to the audience, to his fans. That's a Labour thing to do. We recognise Palestine. But of course, mostly it's because he wants the Muslim vote. There are 4 million Muslims in this country, and he figured, as actually Muslim support was fading away from him, he figured if I recognise Palestine, the Muslim votes will come back to us. It's just sordid, to be honest with you. It's disgusting, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's about the Muslim bloc vote. It's also about the far left extremists in his party. It's both of those things. You've absolutely nailed that. But when people say this thing, oh well, I'm allowed to criticise Israel, it doesn't make me anti-Semitic. Well, what are you doing? Are you holding Israel to a unique standard? Yes, you are. Are you criticising other countries? No, you're not. Are you criticising Saudi Arabia? Are you pointing out that 500,000 people have been massacred? Christians have been massacred in Nigeria. No, you're not. You're not doing any of those things. You're just focusing on Gaza, and you're weaponizing. You're doing, if you're talking about, the only thing you're talking about is children dying, then you are also kind of alluding to blood libels as well. What about women and men? They count too, don't they? But no, you're talking about children, and you're drawing on these old tropes, and you're blaming the victims. You're blaming Jews.
Philip, I'm going to have to go to a break now because we've got 2 more to do before we get to 8 o'clock. We ran over a bit, but unsurprisingly. So stay where you are. We'll come back in a second.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're still with Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum, Philip Kisley. Philip, let me just read a couple of messages. You've got them piling in, lots of phone calls. We will be talking to you a little bit later, folks, so keep the calls coming in. Obviously, there is much to discuss. So this is Simon from Slough. He says, I'm disgusted by this attitude to our Jewish community. They are welcome here and they are lovely, clever people. I don't suppose they are all clever, but you know what I mean? They're the same as everybody else. Some of them are clever and some of them aren't, you know, like, you know, kind of Caucasians like me. You know, I'm stupid, other people aren't. You know what I mean? That's the point. You know, I live next to Jew. A lot of my neighbours are Jewish people, you know, and you know, I barely notice they're British. They're 65 years old. They were born here. You know, to say they're Jewish, no, they're primarily British. But anyway, good point by Simon. He says, I'm disgusted at this attitude to our Jewish community. They are welcome and lovely, clever people. The left are mad. I am married to a Sikh and have no racist bones in my body, but these terrorists need to be stopped. You're right, Simon, they certainly do. This is from Margaret in Birmingham. Thoughts and prayers to the Jewish community and the people of Manchester. Thinking of all the Jewish people in this country, Starmer should take a look in the mirror and see what is staring back. Well said, Margaret, absolutely. I'll tell you what's staring back at him. A Palestine appeaser, a Hamas appeaser. He you know, that statement he made, oh, I've got the right to the safety of people, the poor Jewish people, and I'm like, shut up. Shut up. Who do you think you're kidding? Who do you think you're kidding? You know, I shouldn't really be doing this as a broadcaster, but, you know, I'm just angry as a citizen of this country. Weasel words from this Prime Minister who literally lowered the drawbridge of terror when he announced that this country was going to recognise Palestine because it's the moral and right thing to do. Give me a break. Give me strength. Philip, well, we're getting lots and lots of text here, but again, this. Let me show you. This is the view from the left. You'll like this. Now, of course, Starmer, in fairness, he's married to a Jewish lady, and he's gone some way to curing some of the excessive anti-Semitism, the Corbyn-style anti-Semitism of the left-wing Labour Party of the past, but it's still there. It's still there. Now, Corbyn's little sidekick, Zara Sultana, I'm going to read you out two tweets from her. She doesn't tweet that much, so these ones came out sort of next to each other. 18 hours ago, Zara Sultana MP, expel the Israeli ambassador now. There you go. 5 hours ago, I am shocked and appalled by the attack on a synagogue in Manchester on the holiest day for the Jewish community. There you go, the hypocrisy of the far left, the Jew-hating far left for you, right there, eh?
Just it's gaslighting, it's trolling, it's hypocritical, as you say, and you know, it's playing mind games. This is the thing. Corbyn did exactly the same thing, you know, and if there are two people who've whipped up, you know, what they call anti-Zionist hatred in this country, my God, it's those two people, you know, and the rest of the Labour Party, and we have to keep coming back to Starmer, and we have to keep saying that he has done nothing meaningful about it. Yes, okay, the Labour Party is slightly better than when it was in special measures for anti-Semitism under Corbyn, but that's really not saying much at all, is it? You know, it's just a terrible situation, and this is our government, and this government has recognised terrorism. This government is on the side of terrorism, and as Israel quite rightly says, you know, Starmer is responsible for this wave of gross anti-Semitism that's actually happening now.
Yeah, and of course, the leader before him, the dreadful Jeremy Corbyn, I mean, he fanned the flames of anti-Semitism like there was no tomorrow, and of course always came out with that same old line, I criticise Israel, I have nothing against the Jewish people. That guy, in his entire very long life, he's been in politics now for something like, about 60 years or something. In his entire life, and particularly when he was challenging to be Prime Minister of this country, he has had one foreign policy. Get the Jews out of Israel, give it back to Palestine. That's been his only policy, his only foreign interest. One country, one place, anywhere. It's Palestine and Israel. Everywhere else in the world he couldn't give a damn about. It's an obsession with these people.
Yes, he's actually a very simple man. He doesn't really have that much of an intellect. It's just this one thing, and he probably hasn't changed. Most people develop intellectually and emotionally over the span of their lives. I think he's probably exactly the same as he was when he was 17. But the really terrible thing about this is that everybody in the institutions still worships him. He took as I said before, he took the Labour Party into special measures for anti-Semitism, and yet certainly everybody that I know, and I know a lot of people still in the higher education sector, in the university sector, they worshipped him then, and they secretly worship him now. Corbyn is their cult leader in a way, and this is cultish. This is what it is. We've seen on campuses, in the civil service, in the media, it's a kind of cultish behaviour that follows people like Corbyn, Greta Thunberg, and all of these kinds of people, and that's what's wrong with what's happening today. That's what we need to tear apart. I'm so delighted that Richard Tice made that short video, and that Reform have come out so strongly on this, because they always do on the side of Jews. They're so good. I'm so delighted that they're going to do that. I want them to take apart all of this nonsense. I just want them to come into government.
I'll bring you more news about Richard Tice after the 8 o'clock news, when I'll be joined by Isabel Oakeshott, his partner, shall we say, but she's going to bring us news of Richard's recent trip. Only recently he spent 4 days in Israel, and she's got some very interesting news to tell us about Israel's attitude to Starmer and their attitude to reform. So the times they are changing. They really, really are. Need to go to break again now, Philip, and when we come back, we'll talk about the wider issue of the kind of incendiary rhetoric that Labour have been unleashing in the past few days, accusing Nigel Farage effectively of being a racist, of Reform supporters of being racists, snake oil salesmen, immoral, all of this rhetoric. Again, arguably, it leads to the sort of thing we saw today. And again, Labour and Keir Starmer should hang their heads in shame. We'll talk about how that dirty tricks campaign has backfired spectacularly for Labour. They're plummeting in the polls. Serves them right. That next, stay tuned.
The attack in Manchester this morning is absolutely shocking, and all of our thoughts are with those affected. I'm on my way back to London. When I arrive, I will chair an emergency COBRA meeting. I'm already able to say that additional police assets are being deployed to synagogues across the country, and we will do everything to keep our Jewish community safe. I've spoken to Mark Gardner of the CST and Andy Burnham, Mayor of Manchester, and I want to thank the emergency services for the speed of their response.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Senior Fellow with the New Culture Forum, Philip Kisley. Philip, let's quickly talk about the prelude to today's horror, which could easily be put towards some of the blame for what's happened. If you dial up the rhetoric, you dial up the potential for violence. And we know what Starmer and his craven crew, his craven cabinet crew have been doing for the past few days, way even before his speech at the Labour conference. He launched all this last weekend in media interviews saying, yes, I do think, he effectively said, I do think that Nigel Farage and Reform supporters are racist. He was careful to say, oh, it's their policies and all that, but he basically pointed the racism finger at Nigel Farage, Reform supporters, and millions of decent Brits around the country who actually want something done about the migrant crisis, which he doesn't seem to be either willing or capable of doing. Anyway, gutter trolling tactics, which hit the lowest point when that oaf David Lammy said that we know that Nigel Farage flirted with the Hitler Youth. What a disgraceful thing to say. As I keep saying, how could he flirt with the Hitler Youth? The Hitler Youth kind of took a bit of a perler, kind of went out of fashion a bit when Hitler died in 1945 and the Nazis lost the war. After that, the Hitler Youth were not much of a going concern. 19 years later, a certain Nigel Farage was born. How can he have flirted with the Hitler Youth? But clear, disgusting smear tactics. And obviously this is the work of a desperate party, a desperate Labour government that has got nothing positive to say about itself. So, like a cornered rat, it is attacking its enemy, hitting it below the belt, telling lies, spreading slurs, trying to demonise their opponents. They don't care about the Tories, it's just reform. Anyway, a new poll has revealed, as expected, it's backfired. They're 5 points down ever since they started calling Reform racist. So, ha, they deserve it. Only got a minute left, Philip, but your thoughts?
All right, yeah, well, it's the politics of desperation, Kev, and it was really remarkable to listen to. I've never heard a prime minister speak like it before. I've never heard such desperation. But when people are desperate, they're often dangerous. They do dangerous things, and this is precisely what the prime minister is doing. He is, as I said before, he's painting a target on the back of everybody. Because if you are castigated as being racist, then that's the worst thing in the world, and anybody can do anything to you. That's what the hard left think.
Again, Philip, the Prime Minister, many people feel, has blood on his hands, and he should hang his head in shame. Great to talk to you. You'll be back soon. Philip Kilsley there. We'll be back after the news with Isabel Oakeshott. More on today's horror.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now for the next half an hour, we're going to spend it in the excellent company of Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott, who I've been talking to all day about the unfolding horror up in Manchester. As I say, where I live in North London, you know, the ripple effect, the terror effect around the country is extraordinary. There were SAS helicopters hovering above Manchester, above the synagogue. The first time the SAS has been unleashed since the terror attack on London Bridge near Talk Towers a few years back, so that's a big development. But helicopters have been flying above Golders Green, a big Jewish community there. The station, you can barely get into it, so many coppers there. The whole country is on red alert. So welcome to the show, Isabel. First of all, there's a few things I want to play you, but just initially, your thoughts.
Well, my thoughts are that as we speak, there are pro-Palestinian and indeed probably pro-Hamas demonstrators gathering in Westminster and in Manchester, shouting, baying, chanting, waving their pro-Palestinian flags. And these awful marches give us some clue as to why we are where we are this evening, and as to the origins of today's absolutely appalling events. You know, we let these people continue to shout their bile, to scream their horrible anti-Semitic chants. We let them continue to wave their foreign flags and wage battles which are not our battles, actually. Of course, the whole world should care what's going on in Israel and what's going on in Palestine. Of course they should, but we don't need to litigate all of that on our streets. And here we are. You know, is it any surprise?
No, it's not. Now, Gideon Falter, the chief executive of the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, released a statement. This excellent organisation held their council all day. They embargoed this till about half an hour ago. I read the whole thing out, but it's a very powerful statement. But among his strong words were this. The eyes of the Jewish people worldwide and decent Britons across the country now turn to Downing Street, not for thoughts and prayers or empty declarations that anti-Semitism has no place in Britain, but to hear what concrete, forceful measures will now be enacted. Gideon also talks about virtue signalling politicians who have poured fuel on the fire of extremism, and he points the finger at police forces and police chiefs who have failed to tackle the mobs on our streets. Now, talking about that video, the demonstration that's going on right now in Parliament Square in Britain, in London, loud pro-Palestine mob screaming their heads off. There's one happening as well in Manchester. Gideon asks to hear what concrete, forceful measures will now be enacted. He also demands that the police forces and police chiefs who have failed to tackle the mobs get to grips with it. So what I would suggest is, in terms of something concrete that the Prime Minister and indeed the police can do, is to start taking a much closer look at these wild pro-Palestine marches that snake through the streets of our cities every weekend, and start arresting all of the people who clearly break the law. They call for jihad, they call from the river to the sea, which means the annihilation of the Jewish people, and their chants, their posters are against the law, and yet the police always turn a blind eye. Got to keep the streets safe, keep it calm, don't want to inflame the situation. Well, the Jewish community is demanding now concrete action, and I would suggest that the Prime Minister might want to start by getting the police to police these these pro-Palestine mobs properly and arrest them when they break the law by essentially calling for the extermination of the Jewish race?
So, Kev, I'd actually go further. I mean, you may not agree with this because, you know, both of us at our hearts are libertarians, and it's horrible. We don't generally believe in banning anything, really, or very little, you know, only the most awful, obviously illegal behaviour. I've said many a time I'd have banned these marches a long time ago. There are 101 reasons why they are a toxic presence on our streets. I would just say that at this point, those marches have become a danger. You know, I think they've been a danger for a very long time. I would say that there is more than enough excuse now for the government to ban them. But of course they won't do that. I realise that I don't know how many people would agree with me, but I'm sick of these marches, absolutely sick of them. You know, we've got plenty of virtue signalling Labour figures tonight talking about, you know, we're not going to let terrorists divide us and so on. Those marches divide us. Every time those people take to the streets waving their ridiculous, creepy Palestinian flags, that divides our streets. So I would just stop it.
Fair point, fair point. I'm certainly very sickened by them today. I think it's absolutely disgusting, and they got no shame staging these demonstrations today.
No, they don't.
Today.
They have no shame.
It's repulsive. It's repulsive. But listen, let's have a look or a listen and a look at the Prime Minister's statement a couple of hours ago, and let's talk about what we think about it. This now.
And while this is not a new hate, this is something Jews have always lived with. We must be clear. It is a hatred that is rising once again, and Britain must defeat it once again. On behalf of the nation, I want to offer my condolences to the families and victims affected. I want to thank the Greater Manchester Police, the first responders, and those dedicated security specialists. There is no doubt whatsoever that they have prevented an even greater tragedy, and we thank them for their bravery. But to every Jewish person in this country, I also want to say this. I know how much fear you will be holding inside of you. I really do. And so, on behalf of our country, I express my solidarity, but also my sadness that you still have to live with these fears.
Said the weasel who recognised Palestine and rewarded Hamas for their atrocity on October the 7th. As I said at the beginning of the show, if you reward terrorism, you promote more terrorism. A lot of Jewish people today and non-Jewish people today, maybe including me, saying unequivocally that the Prime Minister, by recognising Palestine, now has blood on his hands. That recognition led to what happened today. It emboldened the ongoing explosion of anti-Semitism, and then you got this attack on the synagogue. Many say it's your fault, Starmer. Honestly, Julia Hartley-Brewer said earlier he should hang his head in shame. I can't help but agree with her.
I mean, I listened to that statement open-mouthed, and you know, I know how the Jewish community feel. You know, I've spent time with them. I was in Israel a few months ago. My partner Richard Tice is just back actually from 4 days, very intense days in Israel. He went right to the border with Gaza, saw food distribution aid going into Gaza. You know, there's a lot of controversy about that, and I'm sure he'll be speaking about that in days to come. I know how they feel. And I think they will be absolutely snorting with derision at that statement. In fact, they will consider that statement from the Prime Minister a downright insult. How can he stand there at that lectern and say he knows how they feel and express his solidarity when it's his actions that have made them feel that way, or inactions that have made him feel that way in the first place? He's rewarded terrorism by recognising Palestine, and look where we are.
Exactly. Now, you and I talked earlier about Richard's trip to Israel only last week. 4 days there. He met some serious dignitaries, even the president of Israel, I do believe, and I think he's okayed you to reveal what his meetings brought home to him, and that is that the Israelis, the Israeli government, Israeli people generally, are absolutely appalled by what they see as the treacherous way in which Britain has abandoned them, by recognising Palestine, by this government's just clear pro-Palestine, anti-Israel policies. Israelis and the Israeli government are furious with Starmer, aren't they?
I mean, that came across so powerfully during his trip, you know, that he was lucky enough to get tremendous access. And in fact, you know, technically he's a backbench politician, opposition party. I mean, he's a deputy leader, yes, but, you know, it's quite unusual for the deputy leader of a political party that isn't in power to get access to the president of a country, to the foreign minister of that country. Why did he get that access? Well, because they are truly fed up, and that's putting it politely, with the actual prime minister of this country, and in particular the deputy prime minister of this country, I should think. So they were more than happy to engage with him, because, you know, Reform, I think in general, is trying to do what it can to support the Jewish community, which feels deserted by pretty much everyone else in Parliament. And, you know, one thing that did come across as well, it may seem a small thing, but Downing Street had literally rolled out the red carpet for Mahmoud Abbas, for the Palestinian Authority. And then when the Israeli minister came over, no red carpet. You know, these are small things, but they're also big.
I don't think that is a small thing. I think that's pretty shocking, and it reveals, it's a window into the sort of tortured pro-Palestine psyche of our Prime Minister and his craven crew. It really is.
Absolutely it is. You know, and this is a small country, but it is a country that, Israel, that has been our ally and remains an incredibly important strategic ally, or was until all of this happened. And the damage that has been done by the attitude of senior Labour figures, you know, led by the Prime Minister, to that relationship is absolutely devastating. And it's shocking, isn't it, that there are members of the Jewish community in London who are making plans or have already left to go back to Israel because they feel safer in Israel than they do in London.
Well, I've got neighbours who are in their 60s. As I say, it's almost weird to say, oh, these Jewish people. They're not, they're British. You know, they're born here. They're just they're just British people who happen to be Jews. They're thinking of going to Israel. You know, they've hardly ever been there. But they don't feel safe in this country anymore. Now, to go back to Gideon Falter, the chief executive of the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism statement, his very powerful statement. In it, as I said to you earlier, he attacked police forces and police chiefs who have failed to tackle the mobs on our streets, universities and schools that have tolerated incitement, and then the BBC, whose bias and moral collapse has essentially turned them into spokespeople for Hamas, who they still refuse to call terrorists. Now, I'm going to play you a little clip from the BBC. This was very soon after the attack, so this was very early today, soon after the attack. At 9:31 is when it happened. This wasn't long afterwards. This is The View from Planet BBC.
People on the hard right, the far right, are a bit divided on their attitude to the Jewish community these days in the UK. But certainly the Jewish community has felt that they were at risk from multiple directions, some from the sort of extremist Islamist direction, but also some from the kind of neo-Nazi elements on the far right. So it is both that are of concern, and as you say, at this stage we don't really.
Yeah. But mostly, of course, it's probably the hard right or the far right. I mean, who else except for the BBC, half an hour after that atrocity at the synagogue in Manchester, was going, I reckon it's probably the far right. Who else, apart from the BBC, would have remotely been thinking that? Well, you know what we're all thinking, what we're thinking to this moment. We're not thinking it was the far right. Only the BBC, the pro-Palestine, anti-Semitic BBC, would ever say that. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Well, actually, I'm not sure I agree with you. I'm not going to name names, but I can think of a couple of other media organisations that would probably be tempted to do.
I think a fair play. I know what you mean. Yeah.
But yes, the most important.
Sky. Sorry, I was just clearing my throat there. Sky News. Sorry, carry on.
The most important and influential organisation that would do that is, of course, the BBC. And how do they get away with it? It's astonishing, isn't it? I mean, yeah, it's just absolute twaddle. And very quickly we saw the images of the perpetrator of this attack, who's now dead. It's just not looking that far right to me.
Yeah, put it this way: if he really is far right, he's a far right extremist who really admires the Muslim look. Let's put it that way, shall we?
I mean, sorry, we don't mean to make light of this because it's not a funny thing at all. It's not at all. We're not, we're not.
Yeah, we don't know, of course, but
we don't know. We're not being flippant. But
look at that. Look at that.
A far right bug.
Yeah, people will look at that and they will draw their conclusions. Of course, we cannot say anything definitive. But as I say, you're quite right, Isabel. It's not just the BBC, but the BBC is the worst offender here. And Gideon Falter quite rightly pointing out, this organisation, this BBC, our state broadcaster that we have to pay for, is just disgustingly still refusing to call Hamas, those thugs, those rapists, those murderers, those baby killers, still refusing to call them terrorists. What on earth is going on, as I say, on Planet BBC?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, this has contributed to a culture in which it's become really pretty difficult to make the other side of the argument. You'd ask any parliamentarian that is not on the pro-Palestinian side of things, and they will privately admit that they're pretty nervous about standing up and being accused of being pro-Israeli and then pro-genocide and pro-this and pro-that. It's really difficult, and MPs that do stick their neck out on this risk being targeted. We've seen this already. Their personal attacks. Fortunately not physical, but you just don't know, on MPs that are not seen to be on the woke side of the argument here. All this has created a toxic culture so very far away from where the actual battles are being fought. I'm sitting here tonight in a country in the Middle East, and the idea that people would feel unsafe on the streets here because of the war in Israel and Palestine is completely alien. So how is it that it's acceptable for this to be litigated on the streets of the UK?
Exactly right. I mean, it's just extraordinary what's going on. And, when we talk about our Prime Minister again, a man who's now kind of affecting, great protective noises about the Jewish community, their welfare, their safety is paramount. The guy who recognised Palestine just a few weeks back. Let's go back. Let's rewind to when he was, of course, shall we say, the arguably extremely anti-Semitic Jeremy Corbyn's loyal lieutenant, his right-hand man. Remember that?
For sure. Who could forget it? The Labour Party during that era went through a completely, almost existential crisis over anti-Semitism. People will remember that there were anti-Semitic members of the party being thrown out in symbolic gestures at various stages. There were inquiries about threads of anti-Semitism through the wider party, if not among MPs that among grassroots members. And this was all quite a long time ago, and it was long before it all became as sensitive as it is now. And it was sort of thought that the party had been purged of these elements. And in fact, it's far worse than we could have thought.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Labour Party has not been purged of anti-Semitism. In fairness to Starmer, he's improved the situation. But make no mistake, on the far left of the Labour Party, there are still some pretty enthusiastic anti-Semites. No doubt whatsoever. No doubt whatsoever. Well, look... I think perhaps we'll go to break now. And I do want to actually talk to you about another important story, I think, when we come back, just for 5 minutes. But it's Baroness Bra, Michelle Mone, who's connected to this company, MedPro, who have now been ordered to pay back £122 million for supplying the government with dodgy medical gowns, PPE. We could talk about her to an extent. I mean, I think she should not be in the House of Lords anymore. There's no doubt about that. But I think the real story here is, basically her husband and Doug Barrowman is her name, and Baroness Bra, Michelle Mone. In this instance, they acted like a couple of cowboys. They bought in this cheap PPE from China, flogged it to a panic-stricken government for £122 million. The High Court has now ordered them to pay that money back. But I think, yes, we could talk about them and their opulent lifestyle. But what we really need to talk about is what the hell was going on when the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, and all the cabinet were just handing around money like this, like confetti. That's the story here, and we'll talk about that when we come back. Stay tuned, folks.
The attack in Manchester this morning is absolutely shocking, and all of our thoughts are with those affected. I'm on my way back to London. When I arrive, I will chair an emergency COBRA meeting. I'm already able to say that additional police assets are being deployed to synagogues across the country, and we will do everything to keep our Jewish community safe. I've spoken to Mark Gardner of the CST and Andy Burnham, Mayor of Manchester, and I want to thank the emergency services for the speed of their response.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, we're going to just briefly cover a couple of other stories. This is kind of breaking news, yet almost inevitably another 138 migrants crossed the Channel illegally yesterday. These are the latest figures. So that officially brings it since Saturday. So what is that? 5 days, in just 5 days, because we've only got the figures until yesterday. That brings the 5-day figure to an incredible 2,037. So 138 yesterday, 531 the day before. So we're now at 2,037 since Saturday. I'll just leave that hanging in the air because we do have to cover other stories. But just another thing that this government is making a total shambles of. Absolutely disgraceful, lack of anything. Don't tell me Shabana Mahmood is going to solve the crisis. She's nowhere near even remotely starting to solve the crisis. Leave the ECHR or forget it. Just quickly, Isabel, because we should stick with the big story of the night, but I do think this is a big story as well. Michelle Mone, Baroness Bra, is connected to her husband's company, MedPro. In the height of the COVID panic, our then future I'm a celebrity contestant, but then the Health Secretary Matt Hancock and Boris Johnson approved giving this pair £122 million for a load of really dodgy medical PPE gowns from China. They weren't sterile, they didn't work, but these two managed to pocket the money. The High Court yesterday told them they've got to repay that. Doug Barrowman, her husband, says this is a whitewash. Baroness Mone has yet to say anything about it. But the question is, first of all, I mean, I think she has to leave the House of Lords. That's it. She cannot, even Rachel Reeves, I don't often agree with her, but she said today, I don't see how this woman can continue to help legislate for this country in the House of Lords. I think that's right. She has to go. But the question I want to ask you is, what the hell was going on that our government, taxpayers' money, just handed 122 million quid to this pair without checking the PPE or anything? We paid for it, then it turned up, it was completely useless. What was going on then?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what was going on. I, of all people, know because I saw all the messages that were flying between the Health Secretary and these various characters. And I actually remember seeing detailed messages from Michelle Mone. That's all been covered in the media, you know, very, very pushy messages about this stuff. And what was going on is that a very small number of politicians, of which Matt Hancock, the then Health Secretary, was one, were not only in a sort of blind panic, but they were also on a gigantic kind of vanity trip. You know, they wanted to show that they were, you know, amassing the greatest amount of kit and, you know, being the busiest and being the most protective of the nation and saving as many lives as possible. And all judgment went out of the window, didn't it?
Yeah.
And what was grotesque is that there were so many people in our country whose instinct under those circumstances was to exploit that. Their instinct in the outbreak of a pandemic was, wow, there's a good business opportunity here, isn't there?
Yeah.
I have to say, you know, I'm sure up and down the country, so I'm sure many of our listeners feel like this. We read about the people that somehow made, even several million, not even tens of millions or 100 million or whatever, several million, by at that time thinking, oh, maybe I should import some PPE, and thought to ourselves, oh, I should have thought of that. But no, actually, I'm really glad that I didn't think of that, because it genuinely did not occur to me, and nor did it occur to 99 point whatever percent of the population to try to make money out of the horrors of the beginning of the pandemic and the panic that ensued. It is grotesque. It is totally immoral. And people like Michelle Mone and her partner, of all people, did not need to do that. They don't need any more money. They should be volunteering to give it back, and they should have done so a long time ago.
Totally right, but they're going to have to now. Disgusting behaviour by them, and ridiculous behaviour by our panicking government, wasting taxpayers' money like that. You were just the person to talk to about that, weren't you, because of your WhatsApp exclusive. Listen, Isabel, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Listen, we're going to go straight back to Manchester, where our man Alex Farrell, done a great job today reporting from the synagogue, is with Lord John Mann, who is the government's anti-Semitism advisor. Welcome, both of you. Welcome back. Hello, John. Thank you for joining us. I can see it's raining and difficult.
Evening.
It's raining and difficult there. What are your feelings about the government and what the Jewish community are saying today, that, for example, the recognition of Palestine has only fostered this ongoing kind of explosion of anti-Semitism that possibly led to today's atrocity? What's your feeling about that?
No, what the community is in shock, in trauma. And nobody's been murdered in our country for being Jewish for very many decades. And unlike other countries where there have been murders, people have seen it, they've experienced it, they've been through other terror attacks, not least in Manchester. But to have it direct in your own community, two Jewish people going about their normal lives as British citizens, going to their synagogue on the holiest day for Yom Kippur, getting murdered simply and solely because they're Jewish. The whole country needs to take a deep breath about the consequences and what that means. This is a national moment for us, and not just government needs to step up, the country needs to step up in standing in solidarity with the Jewish community. And that means people who know Jewish people, neighbours or in their workplace, going and telling them, we're with you in this. We're not prepared to have this in our country. And while it's going on, this afternoon, after people have been murdered, we have people being abused at a synagogue in the south of England by extremists yelling at them out of a van as they're passing. Now, that's not the same level, of course, but the same principle of people abusing Jewish people simply for being Jewish. And the country needs to get a grip of this and stand by its Jewish community.
Couldn't agree with you more, John. But they do say, and it's been said a lot today, that if you reward terrorism, it promotes more terrorism. The Prime Minister stands accused of recognising Palestine and, in so doing, rewarding Hamas's atrocity on October the 7th. And many Jewish people today are saying that has led, the pro-Palestine policies of this government have led to today's violence. What are your thoughts on that?
No, we've had anti-Semitic violence across Europe for the last 10 years. We've had people murdered repeatedly in France over the last 10 years. We've had people murdered in the United States three times in the last 18 months. So no, there's all sorts of factors in it, but anti-Semitism's become deep-rooted in our society, and there are people on the extremes who feel it's appropriate to abuse Jewish people, and some people who feel that they can go and kill Jewish people. And so what we've seen in the United States, 3 times Jewish people being murdered for being Jewish, we've now seen coming to this country. There's, people want to conflate and attack Jewish people and hold them responsible for what's happening in the Middle East. Conflating the 2 issues is wrong. It's a red herring. This is about evil. This is about people who believe that Jewish people are evil. That's what it is. Actually, it's them that are evil. In their distorted minds, in the caricatures they have of Jewish people, the lies they tell about them, and the way they spew out that vengeance against them. This is what leads to the violence we've seen today, and our failure to deal with that kind of thing, wherever it is, how people say it, how they write it, how they put it on the internet, that's at the core of what we need to get our act together to deal with, because we've had enough of it. Murders of Jewish people in France, murders of Jewish people in America, murders of Jewish people in Denmark, in the Netherlands, and now in this country. Enough is enough. Let's fight back against this.
I agree with that. Now, since October the 7th, 2 years ago, anti-Semitic incidents in this country are up by 140%. Sorry to labour this point, but I want to ask you, John, was the Prime Minister right to recognise Palestine?
That's an irrelevant question.
Well, was
it's
he
not
right?
Relevant
Can I ask you, was he right?
Question.
It isn't an irrelevant question.
Context,
I'm sorry, John.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry,
you're
John.
out of order. You're out of order. In the
I am not
context
out of order. It is a perfectly reasonable question. Was he right to recognise Palestine?
It's irrelevant. It's an irrelevant question.
You think it's irrelevant, John? Are you joking? Are you joking? It is not an irrelevant question.
It's an irrelevant question. What's relevant is the security good enough? Is the support for the community good enough? Is the strategies for tackling extremism and hatred good enough? They're the relevant questions.
So you won't say whether or not you think the Prime Minister was right to recognise Palestine. You won't tell us that. You won't tell us whether or not...
I'll tell you that. I'll tell you in another interview. I'm quite happy to discuss the
Middle East.
Why
don't you tell us in this interview?
But I am not conflating. I am not
it's
conflating.
Not conflating.
I'll challenge those who conflate.
It's a perfectly reasonable
because you start
question.
Them blaming, or others blame Jewish people. For
what do you think Jewish people are saying today? That it was brilliant that he recognises Palestine.
In this country.
Sorry, John, you're a very good man. I remember when you clashed with Jeremy Corbyn, but I think you should answer this question.
I tell you
was the Prime Minister right to recognise Palestine?
I tell you what, mate, you're part of the problem.
Oh, really? Really, am I?
You're part of the problem with questions like that. Yes, you are.
Think that's an
you should
unreasonable
be dealing with
question?
the problems of anti-Semitism.
Sorry, John.
People murdered today,
it's not an unreasonable
and you want to go
question.
in, and there's plenty of others do as well, on all sides of the argument, want to talk about other issues. The issue is Jewish people being murdered today for being Jewish, and the fact that's happened in our country. And thank goodness the police have been so good today, because it could have been far worse. Thank goodness that the Jewish volunteers were there, and that what they did was incredible today, including the work they did with people with serious injuries. They're the heroes of today, and get them on your programme and let them talk.
We will, John. Let's part friends and let's agree on that. It's been a horrific day. Thank you very much, Lord John Mann. There, the government's anti-Semitism czar. I mean, let me know. Was that a reasonable question? Was that a reasonable question I was asking? Was the Prime Minister right to recognise Palestine? Jewish people all over the country right now believe that move by our government has led to today's violence. It emboldened anti-Semitism. So I'm sorry to upset Lord John Mann, who I think is a very decent man. But I think it's not an unreasonable question. Let me know what you think. Was I wrong to ask that question? 0344 499 1000. Back in a minute.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We ran over a bit there with my interesting interview with Lord John Mann, the government's anti-Semitism czar. I still don't understand why he wouldn't answer a very straightforward question. Was Keir Starmer, was this government right to recognise Palestine? A lot of Jewish people today, a lot of critics, including me, believe that was an appeasement of Hamas. That rewarded Hamas for their terrorism, for their horrific attack on October the 7th, 2 years ago. If you reward terrorism, it leads to more terrorism. Just let me know, did I do something wrong there by asking the government's anti-Semitism czar whether or not the government was right to recognise Palestine? Because I don't think I was wrong. And, I think John Mann is a really good man, I really do. He stood up against Jeremy Corbyn like there was no tomorrow. Furious clashes with Jeremy Corbyn. But I don't think he should obfuscate on a question like that. I really don't. He was avoiding it. He's a member of the Labour Party. See what I'm saying? Right, let's take a quick call. Caroline in London. Hello, Caroline.
Hi, Kevin. I had to call you. By the way, you were so were not wrong to ask that question.
I know. I mean, what was that about?
Insane. Well, everything's insane at the moment. Today is a really desperately sad day, and I'm going to do everything in my power. We need to stop these Palestinian marches now. 3 years on, it's nothing to do with Gaza. This is now outrageous, and the speech Keir Starmer gave, what an insult, what a disgrace. And as for David Lammy, that had been you or me, we've been a police cell now. We're out of control here, and it's terrifying. And I'm Jewish, I'm not religious, but my everything changed for me on October the 7th. And it's not just about Jewish people, because this is going to happen. It's going to happen to anybody. It could have been a non-Jewish person there on the street, who knows?
Yeah,
it's out of control, Kevin, and we need to all rally together, and we've got to get this. I can't even call them a government. They are not a government.
Oh, they're a shambles. They're a shambles, Caroline. I've got to say that there's something, like I understand people saying we've got to stop these pro-Palestine marches, but there's something inside me that. Just some small something small inside me that just still wants to say, well, we must allow protests, we must allow demonstrations. But what I would say is that Isabel Oakeshott echoed your view, ban them. What I would say is, something inside me, I don't want to ban them. I don't want to ban the right to demonstrate. What I would say, though, is let's get the police to police them properly, and when they start shouting jihad and to the river to the sea and various other calls for the Jewish race to be annihilated, which they do, arrest them and charge them. Start policing it properly. Don't let them break the law. That's what I would say, but I totally understand what you're saying. Just ban them all together. And if they did ban them all together, I wouldn't lose that much sleep, Caroline, I'll be honest with you.
I hear you, Kevin, but a lot of what they do is hate speech. Yeah. It is literally hate speech. And if we're banning hate speech, then they should be banned.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Okay, yeah, or let them have the demos. Anyone who indulges in hate speech, arrest them. Because what's going on now is the police just turn a blind eye. They turn their backs and let them get on with it. That's what needs to be stopped. Caroline, I'm very sorry for what's happened today, to you as a Jewish lady and to you as a citizen of this country. And I totally respect what you said about banning these marches. As I say, something inside of me, I don't want to ban them, but if they did get banned, I wouldn't lose a whole lot of sleep. Good to talk to you, Caroline. Take care now. Thank you very much for an excellent call. Caroline in London there. Let's go to break now. When we come back, we're going to talk to Ross Clark, columnist for The Sun and The Spectator. I was going to talk to you about Ed Miliband. We'll have a little chat with him about that, but I think we also need to get his view as a prominent journalist in this country of what's been going on in Manchester today. That next, stay tuned.
The attack in Manchester this morning is absolutely shocking, and all of our thoughts are with those affected. I'm on my way back to London. When I arrive, I will chair an emergency COBRA meeting. I'm already able to say that additional police assets are being deployed to synagogues across the country, and we will do everything to keep our Jewish community safe. I've spoken to Mark Gardner of the CST and Andy Burnham, Mayor of Manchester, and I want to thank the emergency services for the speed of their response.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest. He's a columnist for The Sun, The Spectator, and virtually every publication in the world. He is the great Ross Clark. Welcome, Ross.
Good evening, Kevin.
I hope you don't mind. I'm going to sort of change course a little bit because obviously the story of... we're going to talk about Ed Miliband in just a second. But obviously the story of the day is what happened in Manchester today, the appalling attack on the synagogue, 2 dead, 3 fighting for their lives, etc., etc. I just, as a journalist, answer me this, if you will. I just interviewed, live up on the scene, the government's anti-Semitism czar, Lord John Mann, who is a good guy, actually, a decent campaigner against anti-Semitism. He clashed furiously with Jeremy Corbyn during the dark days of the Corbynista Labour Party, the arguably anti-Semitic Corbynista Labour Party. I asked him, I said, do you think that the government, Keir Starmer, was right to recognise Palestine? I said, because a lot of Jewish people feel that by recognising Palestine, that was rewarding terrorism. It was rewarding Hamas's atrocity on October the 7th 2 years ago. Was the government right? He refused to answer time and time again, and he kept saying that's irrelevant. You're conflating something that isn't relevant. I mean, it's a fair question, wasn't it? Don't you think he should have answered it?
Well, yes, I do think he should have answered it. I mean, the thing is, I mean, I would love there to be a two-state solution in the Middle East. I don't think there will be real peace until there is a two-state solution. And, you know, you can criticise Israel for successive Israeli governments of trying to sort of make that impossible by sort of settling the West Bank in the way they have and so on. But even so, look at what's happened in the last few weeks. We've now got possibly a peace deal on the table that's been brokered by Trump, you know, the bad guy. And what you think then back? Well, what did Britain and France achieve by recognising Palestine when it's quite clearly not a country at present? It is not in a state to function as a country. What did Britain and France achieve by doing that? On the other hand, you know, you've got Trump there who's, you know, he's not the greatest diplomat in the world, but, you know, he knows what he's doing. He's actually working towards a possible deal there. And quite frankly, Britain and France are recognising Palestine has been totally sort of, you know, missed the ball.
Yeah, and people like John Mann, as I say, he's one of the good guys, but he's a member of the Labour Party. And if this is going to be the policy of the Labour Party to try and avoid answering the very pertinent question, was the Prime Minister right to recognise Palestine, and indeed did that palpable reward for terrorism? It's exactly what Hamas wanted, so it's quite right to see this as a reward for what happened on October the 7th 2 years ago, the massacre of 1,200 Jews. You know, was this the right thing to do? If they're going to avoid this issue, then I don't think the people will accept it. Do you?
Oh, well, look, I mean, what was the first reaction when Starmer did recognise Palestine? Hamas said, you know, great, it's our victory, didn't it?
Yes,
I mean, that tells you everything, doesn't it? How they saw it and how they wanted to use it as a propaganda victory. No, you know, you want a Palestinian state, and I think I would like there to be a Palestinian state eventually. I mean, you've got to work towards it through a peace deal, and then, you know, creating a proper infrastructure for a country, just sort of recognising it when it clearly doesn't exist on the ground. It is a sort of nothing, really. It's just sort of stirring, and you say it's giving a propaganda victory to
Exactly. Now, let's. I did want you to come on your specialist area, the environment and everything. But I wanted to talk about, just quickly, let's go through it. Crazy Ed Miliband, our net zero secretary, is now pushing for a law to ban fracking in Britain forever and ever, amen. It reminds me of that ludicrous law that the pathetic Theresa May passed when she enshrined in law the legal requirement to reach net zero by 2050. I don't know why these politicians, you know, shackle us with these kind of laws. But Miliband's initiative, a law to ban fracking in Britain forever. I mean, why? Why would he want that?
Well, no government can pass a law to stop something happening forever, because no government can bind the hands of its successor. So, you know, if, say, Reform UK were to win the next election, they could quite easily just repeal Ed Miliband's law and get on fracking. Okay, it would delay it for a little while, but it wouldn't be a difficult law to get through the Commons if you had a decent majority. You just repeal it. So all Ed Miliband's law is going to stop Ed Miliband doing something which Ed Miliband has absolutely no intention
of doing in the first anyway. Yeah, exactly right.
It's just a total waste of parliamentary time.
A little comment from you, Ross, though. You know, Ed Miliband is by far, this is what's frightening, among the Labour faithful, Ed Miliband is by far and away the most popular cabinet minister there is. And when he announced that we're going to ban fracking, the conference, you know, rose, the hats in the air, champagne corks. His sphere of influence, considering his insanity and his economy-ruining policies, his net zero madness, his windmill derangement, their support of him, their love of him is worrying, isn't it?
Well, it is, yeah. I mean, it needs to be absolutely emphasised that Ed Miliband is the most popular cabinet minister among members of the Labour Party. He's not the most popular cabinet minister among anybody else. And but you know, I wonder, actually, today we were talking about this law on banning fracking. I wonder if that is really his sort of consolation prize, as it was, because it seems that he is going to have to relax the ban on oil and gas, oil and gas extraction in the North.
It could be that, Ross. It could be that. Listen, good to talk to you. Sorry to change course, but thank you for engaging on that one. Always good to talk to you. That's Ross Clark, columnist for The Sun and The Spectator and other publications. When we come back, we'll have a little 20-minute interlude. We'll talk to Kinsey Schofield about the Royals, and then back to the atrocity in Manchester.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In 20 minutes, we'll go back. We're going to go back to the big story of the day: the shocking terrorist atrocity in Manchester, the attack on a synagogue. 2 Jewish people dead. The suspect dead. 3 people fighting for their lives. Really horrific. A car driven at the congregation as they prepared to celebrate Yom Kippur, the most holy day in the Jewish calendar. And then this maniac went crazy with a knife. The police know who he is, but they're not telling us yet. The BBC seems to think he could well be a far-right extremist. I doubt it, don't you? So, yeah, back to that in 20 minutes. But in the meantime, let's talk to our excellent royal guru, the host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered, Kinsey Schofield. Hi, Kins.
Hi, Kev. I do feel the need to say before we start that my heart is with Manchester and my heart is with the Jewish community. I've seen people reacting all over the world, in Israel over this, in New York City. So I do think it's important to say how much my heart is with you, and I'm so sorry that you're experiencing this. It scares everybody when something like this happens.
Well said, Kinsey, and we appreciate it. It's been a dark day here in this country, and we've been concentrating on this ever since 7 o'clock. And I actually thought it might be quite nice to take a little break. And actually, what I want to talk about isn't very nice. I think it's extraordinary. So Thomas Markle Sr., Meghan's dad, he's 81, suffered very frail, suffered a couple of strokes. He's been living in the Philippines for the last few months with his son, Thomas Markle Jr. Now that region, the Philippines, suffered a couple of days ago a really serious major magnitude earthquake, 6.9, pretty damn big. 100 people died, buildings collapsing, etc., etc. Now there were reports that Thomas Markle Sr. and indeed his son, they live in a 19th floor apartment. There were reports that that building had partially collapsed and that the two of them were trapped in their 19th floor apartment. Now, to be fair, it subsequently emerged that that wasn't the case, and Thomas Markle Sr., as quickly as he could, put the record straight and said, "I'm fine, nothing wrong, nothing to worry about." Now, Thomas Markle Jr., meanwhile, is absolutely furious because despite, you know, Meghan's long-running estrangement from her father, Thomas Markle Jr. is saying, "What? So you're just not even interested in whether or not your dad is dead or alive?" And he's posted some very angry posts on YouTube and social media, just saying, you know, just don't you care? Don't you care at all? Before we play that, what are your thoughts on this? Because I do think, even by Meghan's standards, that's pretty incredible. Doesn't even bother to inquire whether or not her father has survived.
I mean, I can't say I'm surprised. This isn't a shocking story for me. It fits a very clear pattern we've seen from her for years. Meghan cut her father out of her life immediately around the wedding to Prince Harry, and despite his repeated efforts to reconnect, she has remained unmoved. This cycle of disloyalty isn't unique to her relationship with her father. We've seen it with her former friends, family members, and professional contacts. I mean, asked on a red carpet whether or not Meghan Markle would be joining the Suits reboot, her original cast members were like, we haven't had her number in years. She has a track record of burning bridges and moving on. She rarely maintains deep, meaningful, and long-term relationships. And that's why this earthquake story doesn't really move the needle for me, and likely not for Thomas Markle Sr. either. He knows exactly who his daughter is. He's experienced firsthand what happens when Meghan decides a relationship no longer serves her narrative. So while the headlines might try to point this as shocking or heartless, in reality, it's consistent with the way she's treated many of the people who once stood closest to her. I'd say the bigger story I take away from this is how Prince Harry is living in a perpetual state of fear. I just talked to Sally Bedell Smith about Diana's real obsession with rejection because her mother left her at a young age and because her father was emotionally unavailable after that. And I said to her, we see that in Prince Harry. Prince Harry's constantly telling us, my mother...
Kinsey, do you mind if I just interrupt, because we've got breaking news that the terrorist atrocity this morning in Manchester, the attack on the synagogue, was officially, now it is officially confirmed, it was the work of Islamic terrorists or an Islamic terrorist. We've got a name. He's been named by the Greater Manchester Police as 35-year-old Jihad al-Shami. He's a British citizen of Syrian report. So it is now confirmed that this was a terrorist attack by an Islamist extremist. 35-year-old Jihad al-Shami, a British citizen of Syrian descent. Sorry to interrupt, but you realise that's a very important news flash to deliver. Sorry. So you were saying about Harry, Kinsey.
Well, yes, again, and that is important. I know you were just saying that the BBC were reporting something polar opposite of that. So glad that it was clarified. But yeah, I just imagine that that Meghan Markle gets her way in every single aspect of their relationship, because Prince Harry has inherited that fear, that insecurity around rejection. Listen to the way he talks about his father and their lack of emotion together, and the way he fixates on the loss of his mother. I think he lives in constant fear of Meghan burning a bridge in his direction. And so she must get absolutely every single thing she wants. She runs that house. And what a anxious state he must live in, just so fearful of meeting that heartless side of her.
Yeah, I mean, call me naive, but even I find that quite shocking. That you might have thought she might have just checked if her dad was okay. But let's play a little bit of Thomas Markle's reaction. Well, first of all, he called Meghan and Harry a couple of dirtbags. Watch this.
As you can see behind me, I've taken down all that crap that has to do with the duck and dipshit of Montecito, but I came to the realization that they take up more of my mental energy focusing on the two biggest dirtbags that I've ever come across, and they're my family members. They take up more of my time and more of my energy, and it's just not even worth it to even think about them anymore.
That's Thomas Markle's view on Harry and Meghan as a couple. We'll come back to you in a second. Kinsey, you've got more breaking news. This is after it was revealed that the attack on a synagogue today in Manchester was indeed the work of an Islamist terrorist extremist, 35-year-old Jihad al-Shami, British citizen of Syrian descent. Two men aged in their 30s and a woman in her 60s have been arrested on suspicion of commission, preparation and instigation of acts of terrorism connected to the synagogue attack in Greater Manchester. The Greater Manchester Police have just revealed that. So important breaking news. Sorry to interrupt, Kinsey, but you understand this. Let's go back to Thomas Markle. He also delivered his view on Meghan not calling her dad or not checking on whether or not he was alive. Take it away, Thomas Markle Jr.
I've been pissed off for years for what she did to my dad. But here again on this day, the day after the earthquake, is there a phone call? Is there a text? No, there's not. And I'm not going to be the guy who just sits here and just, makes his whole YouTube show about ranting and raving about a worthless piece of shit walking the planet who claims that she's God's gift to the world. I'm not going to do that anymore. I have better things to do with my time.
He's got a point there. He's obviously very, very angry. As I say, I find it shocking that she didn't even check. But as you also say, Kinsey, that ruthless side of her, when she cuts someone off, she cuts them off. We were talking about Jessica Mulroney, weren't we, last week, where she was her best friend for so many years, and then as soon as Jessica Mulroney was involved in some kind of race rail, gone, forget it. forget it, I'll never talk to you again. So when she cuts you off, she sure as hell cuts you off. Now, just before you go, let's have a little look at this one as well. She's at the centre now of an animal cruelty row. Her show, With Love Meghan, at one point she's coochie cooing her chickens, the chickens that she keeps at Montecito at her real house. And then the next scene, she's shoving her hand up a dead one's backside, stuffing it with stuffing. And Peter, the animal welfare campaign group, they don't like this juxtaposition at all. Let's have a look at this.
Side, our lovely lady. Here's our lady. It also just presents in a more elegant way. It's what has to be done.
Yeah, so Peter, very annoyed that she starts calling this dead chicken our lady. She said, oh, our lovely lady, our lovely lady. And then the previous scene, you know, there she is sort of feeding them and cuddling them and stroking her feathered friends. It's kind of bizarre. And if we can go back to an earlier episode, there's another animal cruelty problem. And that's where the chef, Jose Andres, stabs in the back with a knife, stabs a live lobster to death. Watch this.
Lobster, come over here, baby.
Called it baby.
We're gonna cut it in the middle. We put it right here. We do the other cut the other way. Are you okay? Yeah.
I'm good. I can do it. Look,
I mean, listen, at the end of the day,
it's the circle of life.
It's the circle of life, it's the circle of death for that lobster. Look, if nothing else, what I would say, Kinsey, is this is pretty bad television. Dead animals, killing animals on screen, that's not good for ratings. It might go some way to explain why the ratings, the viewing figures for With Love Meghan were so lousy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a common theme with these two, and it's the hypocrisy. There's another story brewing that doesn't paint Prince Harry in the most ethical light right now. In court today, it was alleged that legal researchers working for Prince Harry and several other high-profile claimants devised this camouflage scheme to mislead the High Court in their case against the Daily Mail. And according to these damning emails that they saw in court today, the team discussed ways to circumvent strict legal rules that might have derailed their lawsuit. So Prince Harry, Elton John, Elizabeth Hurley, I'm sure we'll talk about this at great length in the future. They claim that the Mail hacked their phones, amongst other things, bugged their cars. And this 9-week trial is supposed to start in January. But during a preliminary hearing today, it emerged that Harry's legal team, his researchers, floated a strategy to sidestep the 6-year legal deadline for filing privacy claims. In the States, we call this a statute of limitations. I don't know if it's similar there. But after 6 years, you're not allowed to file anything. So their alleged plan involved planting news stories on the Byline website, accusing the Mail of hacking. These stories could then be used to suggest that the claimants had only just discovered that they might be victims.
Well, these are the allegations. I mean, we can't really say that this is just what's been said in court, but it is an interesting case that we will follow closely. We don't know the actual veracity of what's being said, so we'll have to wait and see. Listen, Kinsey, you'll understand. Love to talk to you as I do. Going to have to cut you short this once. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a lovely weekend. We'll talk on Monday. Kinsey Schofield there, our royal guru. Listen, let's go to break, shall we? And we'll go straight back to the big story of the day. We're going to take your calls, read your messages, your WhatsApp voice notes. Let me know what you think about what's happening. I'm very interested to hear what you think of the fact that the government's anti-Semitism czar, John Mann, a good guy but a Labour guy, just wouldn't answer the question. Was the Prime Minister right to recognise Palestine? You know, we all know what we're saying here, that recognition was a reward for Hamas's terrorism, and if you reward terrorism, it leads to more terrorism. Today, we saw Islamist terrorism in Manchester with an Islamist terrorist attacking Jewish people as they went to the synagogue to celebrate Yom Kippur. So we will resume that story when we come back.
Frankly, it's terrifying when you've got a Prime Minister calling for his supporters to take up arms. You've got a Deputy Prime Minister lying about Nigel and just a whole load of nonsense and then coming on and having to apologise for it. You've got multiple cabinet ministers, frankly, libelling and slandering Nigel. I mean, it's a very bad place to take a once highly respected democracy. We are heading down the plug hole under this bunch.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. As I said during my rather truncated chat with Kinsey Schofield, had to keep breaking the news there, you understand that. I was hoping to take a break from the story, but it wasn't to be. Just to reiterate, while I was talking to Kinsey, we broke this. The man who carried out the Manchester synagogue terrorist attack has been named by Greater Manchester Police as 35-year-old Jihad al-Shami, a British citizen of Syrian descent. Jihad. Quite a name. 2 men aged in their 30s and a woman in her 60s have been arrested on suspicion of commission, preparation and instigation of acts of terrorism connected to the synagogue attack, Greater Manchester Police said. So that would indicate, you know, we're not just talking about a lone wolf here. We're talking about potentially a terrorist cell. Now, I'm going to read the total Greater Manchester Police statement. It's headed Update from Counter-Terrorism Policing. The investigation into the attack outside Heaton Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue in North Manchester this morning continues. We can confirm that the 3 suspects are currently in custody and have been arrested on suspicion of commission, preparation and instigation of acts of terrorism. They are 2 men in their 30s and a woman in her 60s. Scenes remain in place on White House Avenue, Crumpsall and Langley Crescent, Prestwich, which are also linked to the arrests. We are now able to confirm that although formal identification is yet to take place, we believe the person responsible for today's attack is 35-year-old Jihad al-Shami. He is a British citizen of Syrian descent. A suspicious device worn by the attacker during the incident has been assessed and was deemed not to be viable. Based on what we currently know, our records do not show any previous prevent referrals relating to this individual. The 2 innocent men were sadly pronounced dead following the incident. 3 other men remain in hospital with serious injuries. 1 sustained a stab wound and a 2nd was struck by the car involved in the attack. The 3rd man later presented himself at hospital with an injury that may have been sustained as officers stopped the attacker. We are working to formally identify those who have tragically been killed and provide support to their loved ones, in addition to the injured and wider community. We are working to understand the motivation behind the attack as the investigation continues. Well, I think we're not in any doubt about the motivation. This guy was an Islamist. Clearly an extremist, clearly a terrorist. So while the Greater Manchester Police wrestle with that, I don't have any problem telling you that as far as I'm concerned, I'm sure you agree, that was an Islamist terrorism. And that he was a terrorist working with other terrorists. So this is not just a lone wolf, and that is even more worrying. In Manchester, a terrorist cell plotting this attack on a synagogue. Jewish people worshipping at their synagogue on their most holy day of the year, Yom Kippur. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Gary in Leicestershire. Hi, Gary.
Hi, mate. You all right?
I'm all right, yeah. What would you like to say, mate?
Oh, I'm gutted, sad, angry,
horrible, isn't
confused. You know, I mean, I rang in a while ago and obviously got loads and loads of calls, but a couple of things. British man of Syrian descent, you know, I'll take that. You know,
British citizen. British citizen. British citizen of
well, yeah, I'm just going on the... You know, I've read the same thing, you know. But anyway, as you wish, you know, it's draw your own conclusions.
Well, I mean, yeah, the point is, you know, I mean, we don't know if he's born here, but he's a British citizen. But, you know, just put the case that he was born here. He's of Syrian descent. That doesn't mean to say, you know, that he's embraced British culture, if you see what I mean. And he clearly hasn't, because British culture does not include murdering Jewish people as they worship on their holy day, Yom Kippur. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, not where I live in Leicestershire and not where you live down in the smoke, mate. That's not the way...
No, it's not the British way, definitely.
No, and it could just a couple of things though. Starmer's press conference, or not press conference, his statement tonight. I mean, have another look at that one. You know, auto cue to the left, auto cue to the right. Couldn't stare down the camera. I mean, the guy's a robot. Absolutely outrageous. But you know, just tangentially go off on a different angle. That copper that. The armed copper that did what he needed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've watched the extended video. I'm sure you've seen it too, because
yeah, I've seen the whole thing. Yeah, it's quite a shocking thing. I'll tell you, Gary. Going off on a bit of a tangent. One of the most surprising things about it is obviously you can literally see the guy getting shot. You see the poor. I think it's the security guard lying by the car in a pool of blood. All pretty graphic stuff. And then there's a couple of guys who sort of walk past, sort of almost step over him as if they're running late and they've got to get to work or something. But it is a shocking video.
No, the two things I'll just say. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, let's film it on my phone. There's a guy in a pool of blood, and nobody even goes over to see if anything. You would, I think I hope, and I hope you would too. Go, hey, mate.
My first move, if I witnessed that kind of thing, I hope my first move wouldn't be to pick up my phone and start filming. I hope my move would be to try and help.
Well, I hope so too. But just coming back to the cop, and I'm just want to keep it punchy because I know it gets a bit sensitive, but it's about a 5-minute, 6-minute sequence of events. Yeah. And I just hope, because this guy's suspended now, that's the way it's going to rock. I hope we're not going to have one of these 18-month, 2.5-year inquiries.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, let's say to that copper that was a righteous kill. I mean, there's no doubt about that in my view. I hope he doesn't have to go through the usual rubbish, the usual nonsense that the police put people through. They have to obviously investigate it to make sure it was all above board, but it looked to me as if it was. I don't want that guy's career to be in any way threatened. I agree with that. Gary, I've got to move on. Good call, though. Thanks for ringing. Gary in Leicestershire. Let's go to Dickie in West Sussex. Hi, Dickie. What would you like to say?
Hi. Just going back to what you said about why Starmer did what he did, recognising
Palestine.
The Palestinian state. Yeah. I think it was his Tony Blair moment where he brokered the Good Friday Agreement. He wanted to be on the world stage, but not realising what type of terrorist he's dealing with. With the IRA, they planted a bomb. It was probably against a building. They gave a warning if they could, which sometimes was useless. With these terrorists, they are willing to die for their cause. And it proves to me that the bloke wearing a artificial bomb, if you want to call it that, was willing to die to kill the Jewish people there.
Oh yeah, I mean it was a sort of suicide attack. Now he knew obviously that what looked like a sort of belt bomb around his midriff. He knew that wasn't really a bomb. I think that was to give himself some breathing space as he went about his nefarious, murderous business. But I think he probably knew that this was a suicide mission.
Yeah, this against the the Jewish people, has been going on. 72, you had Munich. In 1978, you had the London El Al bus attack. And as far as 1994, you had the Israeli car bomb in Kensington Gardens.
Yeah.
So it's not a new thing against the Jewish people.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about attacks on the Jewish people, since October the 7th, 2 years ago, attacks, incidents, anti-Semitic incidents have gone up by 140%. So it's very much not a new thing.
And this is what I can't understand with either party. These are terrorists. It's incredible that they cannot get their head. And as for Starmer saying, we will give protection, we're going to put extra police in, I'm going to go a little bit off kilter on this. He cannot protect our borders. What chance of he putting out protection to the Jewish community?
Well, yeah, exactly right. And as I mentioned earlier, just by way of the fact, or by reminding us that the same old news carries on happening, that I think it's 137 migrants came across the channel. Let's get this right. I think I've got the number. Yeah, 138 came across yesterday. And that takes the tally of illegal migrants crossing the channel illegally in small boats, not so small boats these days, big boats, since Saturday. That takes the tally to an incredible 2,037. That's in 5 days. So that shambles. Our government's failure to do anything about that continues apace. And recognising Palestine, a lot of people, including me, say you reward terrorism, which is exactly what that did. That rewarded Hamas for the October the 7th atrocity, the massacre of 1,200 Jewish people, women, mothers, babies, children, rape, murder. Starmer rewarded that by recognising Palestine. And when he recognised Palestine, Hamas issued a thrilled statement. Yes, this means we've won. We've got what we wanted. So make no mistake, as I said earlier in the show, as I keep saying, as a lot of other people say, you reward terrorism and you promote more terrorism. Guess what we saw today, Dickie? More terrorism. And my question remains: was the Prime Minister right to recognise terrorism, to recognise Palestine? And my answer to that is absolutely not. Dickie, got to move on. Thank you. Good call though. Thank you, Dickie in West Sussex. Let's go to Karen in London. Hi, Karen.
Hi, can you hear me, Kevin?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you just fine.
Hello, hi. Yeah, I'm very incensed about a lot of the stuff that's obviously gone on today with the Jewish people, and I stand with them 100% as a Christian lady. Living in Yorkshire, but it's from London. Lord Mann, your guy, you say.
But yeah, Lord John Mann. I mean, he's a good guy, but you know, he's a politician. He's a Labour politician, and don't tell me it's not a very valid question to ask. The government's anti-Semitism czar, was the Prime Minister right to recognise Palestine, which a lot of people say rewarded terrorism? And if Labour's policy is going to be to avoid that question, the people will be furious and the Jewish community will feel even more let down, right?
Right, I'm absolutely furious, and I really think you should reconsider your version of Lord Mann and think that he's decent, because that word, it really has no place in our society. He's not decent. He doesn't appear to be
Should have answered that question, Karen.
You know what, Kevin? I was 100% with him in the first half of the interview, because he was saying all the right things.
Yeah.
And when you asked him that one question, do you think the government should recognise Palestine? He said he just completely shut down.
Well, I'll tell you what he said, Karen. It was worse than that. It was worse than that. I'll tell you what he said. Remarkably, ludicrously, he said that question was irrelevant.
Yes.
It's not irrelevant.
Absolutely. It's so relevant. It's the most relevant question of the day, really. And Keir Starmer's speech was despicable. And the reason I'm saying that, just as a normal person in the country, is that he basically was like, we're with the Jews, we put our arms around them, we stand against terrorism. He would not in any way commit or mention where it's coming from. And that's the problem with the country. They won't say where the threat is from. And he's driving me crackers.
Yeah. And what about this, though, Karen?
In London. She still lives in Tooting, two roads away from Sadiq Khan, where he lives.
Yeah.
My mum's been in there for 40 years. And she's still there. She's not taking any notice of it because she's a young girl. She doesn't watch social media. She just goes about her life. I'm so petrified for her because, you know, it's awful. The place is awful. London is awful. That's why I'm in Yorkshire. But it's getting worse up here as well.
Yeah. What about the BBC, Karen? The BBC, look, when this happened this morning, you know, let's face it. Let's be honest. I said this earlier in the show before it was confirmed. 99% of us thought this must be the work of Islamic terrorists. That's what we all thought. The BBC's first thought was it must be the work of far-right extremists, Nazi sympathisers. And we were right, they were wrong. But we've got a problem with the BBC. We've got a problem with the authorities. They're anti-Semitic. That's the problem.
They are. And you know what? It's not even funny, Kevin, because it's not like I've heard many times, the trope that comes out. Once they get the Jews, who are they after next? And I'm afraid we're just importing, not just importing, they're homegrown. I was in London, my kids were in a primary school in London when all the 7/7 bombs went off. All the trees are being blown up. It was a horrendous day for people that lived in London, who had children in London, in schools and things, young children, who had to have terrorist training after that, how to hide. You know, we shouldn't be in this position in the first place.
Totally agree with you, Karen. Karen, this is a dark day, and we now know, as we all sort of knew pretty early on, as we always suspected, this was a terrorist attack by an Islamist terrorist, and obviously working with other Islamic terrorists as well. So this was not a lone wolf. This was a group of people who planned this. They'd been arrested. He's, of course, dead. So a shocking example of Islamic terrorism. It's as simple as that. Karen, good call. Thank you for ringing. Karen in London, I think, sharing the anger of a lot of people around the country. Let's tell you what, let's take another call and I'll read some messages in just a little while. Jill in Cornwall. Hello, Jill.
Hi, Kevin. Look, I was really hopping mad the fact that he would not answer the question.
I know, is it bizarre? Bizarre.
It was a question that needed to be answered, but then all of them are exactly the same. Put them under a spotlight where they have to say yes or no. That's good, that's bad. They don't answer.
Playing politics, Jill. He was playing politics with this. You know, because Jewish people have been killed, that's what we should be concentrating on. Couldn't agree more. But it is a very relevant question. Was the Prime Minister right to recognise Palestine? And by so doing, by rewarding terrorism, did he promote more terrorism? Most Jewish people, I think all Jewish people think today, the answer to that question is yes.
And the awful thing is, look, all the people that have floated over to this country in the last God knows how long, we don't know who they are, what they are, or where they come from. And there are going to be good and bad amongst them all. And now we have a situation where the bad things that are happening in this country are happening they're terrorists, aren't they? They are terrorists. These people that are doing what they're doing, they're terrorists. And I'm sorry, if Keir Starmer doesn't get his act together and listen to the people who pay his blessed wages and keep this if he doesn't listen to what we're saying, then I'm sorry, but it frightens me what could happen to people like Nigel Farage and people who are against what we're doing. We should not be accepting Palestine as Hamas now thinks that we are accepting them.
Well, yeah, they issued a statement as soon as Starmer ludicrously recognised Palestine. They issued a statement saying this proves we've won. We've won the war, you know. By the way, while we're talking about Hamas, as expected, you know, no sign that they're going to accept the peace deal, the peace offering from Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. We're now, 2-3 days into this. Donald Trump says we'll give you 3 or 4 days max. After that, Israel will continue the annihilation of Gaza. So once again, Hamas, the fate of that benighted strip of land is in Hamas's hands, and they don't care about the people of Gaza.
Well done, you, making him show himself to be what he was. I know you say he's a decent chap. He may be, but he didn't have he didn't have. Oh God, here we go. He didn't have the courage.
You were going to say balls, weren't you? You were going to say he didn't have the balls.
But he didn't have the courage to answer.
Yeah.
You know,
I know, you're right about that, Jill. It was a piece of, in my view, as I say, I want to stress, I have always admired John Mann, but that was a piece of political cowardice. It was a perfectly reasonable question, and one that needs to be answered by the Labour Party, by the Labour government, pretty damn quickly. Was the Prime Minister right to recognise Palestine? It needs to be answered. We didn't get an answer for John Mann, but let's hope that someone in this government has got the guts to face up to the question that this country needs and demands to be answered. It really must be answered. Jill, with you all the way. Thanks for another, always good to talk to you. A good call. Jill in Cornwall. We've got time. Let's go to Chris in Epsom. Hello, Chris.
Hey, Kevin. How you doing?
I'm all right. Dark day, though, mate.
Very, very dark, mate. messaged my Jewish friends after I heard the news. My closest friend, Anthony, he told me that this has been expected. They've all been talking about it.
You're right. It's totally right, Chris. But Stephen Pollard, former editor of the Jewish Chronicle, wrote a piece for the Mail today to say there's 287,000 Jews in this country, and they have been for probably years, since October the 7th, but certainly for the last year or so, they've been expecting this. What happened today for them was an inevitability. The only surprise to Britain's Jewish community was it took so long. And they say that is because we have a government, a Labour government, that is pro-Palestine, definitely anti-Israel, recognises Palestine, and has emboldened the explosion of anti-Semitism that continues apace. And that's why there was an attack on the synagogue today.
All right, a couple of things to say here, Kevin. First of all, that on the day that Starmer recognised Palestine, Hamas came out and said...
We've got that on board,
right?
yeah.
So we know. That signals... Now, you've got to remember that a lot of these people out there are not as well informed or intelligent or educated as we are. So they see that as, well, the debate's finished. Now it's knives, guns, bombs, cars, hostages. That's what makes the statement. That's what works. And I'm afraid that Starmer, I don't believe he's an evil man. All right, I really don't. But he's making fundamental errors, and
he makes mistakes. He's a shocking politician. He's a shocking prime minister who makes nothing but mistakes. I'll tell you something, Chris. Today, he won't admit it, but he knows he made a massive mistake recognising Palestine. He knows it.
His wife and children under the bus, mate. But I believe he's a puppet. I honestly believe. All right, and this
puppet of who?
My heartfelt truth.
Puppet of who?
Blair.
Oh, yeah, Blair whispers in his ear.
Pulling the strings, all right? Because he got him to recognise Palestine so he could get on Trump, so he could get on...
I don't know about that. I tell you, I think that, no, Starmer wanted to recognise Palestine so he could get the Muslim vote or keep the Muslim vote, which he's been losing. I don't think it was to do with Tony Blair. It's to do with Starmer's own craven political requirements here in Britain. I don't really care if he's a puppet or not. He's useless. He's useless. And he's letting this country down. Got to go, Chris. Good call, as always. Chris in Epsom. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk to Bernard in Middlesbrough. He's a new caller. I always like a new caller. Keep the calls coming in. 0344 499 1000. Lots still to come. And don't forget, 10 o'clock, we hand over the reins to Harry Cole Saves the West Ham News Show from 10 o'clock until 11. And then... I believe it's Andre Walker will take you into the small hours from 11 until 1 a.m. So much still to come, but this story, of course, will dominate everything. So stay where you are, folks. We'll come back in a second. Welcome back. Quick, I've got lots of texts, but it's best to concentrate on the calls. But I like this one from Jim in Lancaster. Hi, Kev. I cannot believe I have just seen a video of a pro-Palestine march and demonstration that is taking place now in Manchester. Why has Burnham, Andy Burnham, not condemned this today? Well, you know, that's regards from James in Lancaster. Well, we had a big pro-Palestine demo here today. We played it, this afternoon, this evening, we played it earlier in the show. Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform UK, filmed it from his office in Westminster, and we put it on the show. So it's happening all over the country. I find that shocking. It's extraordinary. Not today. Not today. There it is. Look at them all screaming away, waving their you know, people have died. There's been a terrorist attack on innocent Jewish people, and this is your response to start shouting about Palestine. Have you got no shame? It's disgusting. It's disgusting. It really is. Let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to, as I say, new caller from Middlesbrough, Bernard. Hi, Bernard.
Hello, Kevin. All right.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. Yeah. What would you like to say, mate?
Right. I'm Jewish. I've had a horrible day today.
Well, yeah. My commiserations. Terrible day.
What people don't really understand is the significance of today itself. Anyway, it's the holiest day of the year where we fast. I mean, I'm not religious, I'll be honest, but I do fast on Yom Kippur.
A lot of people saying that if you want an analogy. Sorry to interrupt, Bernard, but for Jewish people, Yom Kippur is a bit like Christmas Day for Christians, insofar as lots of people who aren't religious aren't really exactly churchgoers, but they will maybe go to church on Christmas Day. Yom Kippur is the same for Jewish people, because of course not all Jewish people are particularly religious. So Yom Kippur is your special day where all the Jews sort of gather around the holiest day of your calendar, right?
That's it, yeah, absolutely. And we don't eat, drink, we don't use mobile phones or anything. But however, this morning, my mobile phone went off with an alert, and I've been on it all day. It's been horrendous, absolutely.
And I've got a note, Bernard, that you're so worried you're taking your daughter out of her Jewish nursery today?
It's not my daughter. No, it's somebody I've been speaking to on Facebook.
Oh, okay. Someone else's, yeah.
Who really feels that they've got to look for somewhere else because they don't feel like it's safe where she is, because people know she's Jewish, which is absolutely horrendous. Yeah. I just don't know whatever's next. I mean,
how do you feel, Bernard, as a Jewish person? Because I keep saying I live in a North London area, round about, fair enough, near enough, Golders Green, Hampstead, around there, where a great many Jewish people live. And I know, even before today, that many of them are just feeling extremely frightened, extremely worried about this explosion of anti-Semitism, which weirdly has exploded almost because of October the 7th, which I just can't get my head round.
Well, people don't hear what's going on in the news series. It was a boy shot through the head just a couple of weeks ago with an air pistol. I think it was in Bournemouth. A rabbi in Bournemouth had a great big black swastika put on outside of his house. A man has been attacked with a rusty flagpole and then hot coffee poured in his face because he was Jewish. When they interviewed the lady that did, he said, well, I did it because he's Jewish and Israelis kill children. Absolutely.
You're right. So, Bernard, what we're talking about, I mean, you know, obviously you get a huge event like today, this terrible attack. Now, obviously that'll make all the headlines, but minor incidents that you're talking about there, they're going on all the time. Since October the 7th, 2 years ago, the explosion of anti-Semitic incidents has gone up by 140%. And I keep saying, this was Britain's reaction to the massacre of 1,200 innocent Jewish people, men, women, mothers, babies, children. The British reaction was anti-Semitic, to rise up against the Jewish people. I can't get my head around it. I just can't get my head around it. It's wrong and it's got to stop. Bernard, stay safe and thank you for a very good call. Call me again. Bernard in Middlesbrough. As I say, in about 4 minutes, I'm going to hand over the reins. Well, it'll be the news and then Harry Cole will take over. Harry Cole saves the West. But first, let's talk to Gareth in Wales. Hello, Gareth.
Hi.
What would you like to say, mate?
Just trying to give a bit of a balanced view on. I listened to the show the last sort of hour on and off, and I'm not religious, but I obviously have a strong view of humanity and nobody to get hurt in the world.
Yeah.
Today's events are just horrendous, and my heart goes out to everybody that has been impacted by it. But it just does seem that there's been an opportunity for such a strong view by yourself and others that the one and only cause of this is recognising Palestine.
No, Gareth, at no point did I give the impression that the one and only cause of this was recognising Palestine, but it certainly seems to have been the ignition, the fuse got lit, and if you reward terrorism, you will promote more terrorism, and recognising Palestine was without a doubt rewarding Hamas's atrocity on October the 7th 2 years ago. They said so. They said we win. So there is your problem. But I'm not, of course, saying it's the only reason. I mean, the government has basically a pro-Palestine outlook. It has blatantly anti-Israel policies. All of this contributes.
But my frustration is with the UK and the US is they are too pro-Israel. They have to be with, and this is
too pro-Israel. Britain is too pro-Israel.
Too pro-Israel because why?
You want to say that today, do you?
Oh,
you want to say that today? You think it's a good day to say this?
Would you let me finish?
Well, if you must.
Because you have to be very, very careful. You accuse everybody who might have been.
And what do you think is pro-Israel about recognising Palestine, Gareth? Do tell me.
Okay, what is pro-Israel?
What is pro-Israel about recognising Palestine?
Can I finish, please?
Well, answer that question.
Okay, so being pro-Israel and the actions they've taken is not stopping the genocide in Palestine. And
it's not genocide. It's not genocide.
How?
It's not genocide. Genocide needs to be. There's a legal requirement to qualify for genocide. Genocide is not happening in Gaza.
So the UN.
It's just a slogan.
All the courts in the world.
No. It is genocide legally is not happening, and the UN does not have the right to say whether or not genocide is happening. That's the International Court of Justice, and they say genocide has not been reached, the qualifications for genocide. So, Gareth, here, you're all over the place here, totally wrong, but thank you for a good call. Gareth in Wales there thinks our government is too pro-Israel. How about that? Thank you for an excellent show, a different show, a shocking show. I'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, over to Harry Cole, Saves the West. Take it away, Harry.
frankly, it's terrifying when you've got a Prime Minister calling for his supporters to take up arms. You've got a Deputy Prime Minister lying about Nigel and just a whole load of nonsense, and then